This time I will call this public hearing to order. And Roxanne, would you read the call of the public hearing?
The Ledyard Town Council will conduct a public hearing at 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, June 25th, 2014 in the Council Chambers, Town Hall Annex, 741 Colonel Ledyard Highway, Ledyard, to receive comments on the proposed ordinance establishing citations and fines for inland wetland violations. At this hearing, interested persons may appear and be heard, and written communication will be accepted. Copies of the draft ordinance are available in the town clerk's office during regular business hours, dated at Ledyard, Connecticut, this 12th day of June 2014. For the Ledyard Town Council, Linda C. Davis, Chairman, published in the New London Day on June 16, 2014.
Thank you. Is there a presentation coming from land use?
Basically, this is an ordinance that was drafted by the IWWC. It almost copies line for line verbatim what the current ordinance 118, which is the zoning citation ordinance, says. The words changing the statutes applicable to IWWC from zoning and changing the fine amount from $150 a day for zoning citations to $1,000 a day for wetland citations, which is what's allowed by state statute. The ordinance does follow the state statute that allows the municipal powers and the hearing portions of the statutes for doing this. It just provides the IWWC another tool to enforce their regulations, much like the zoning citation did. Right now, the only tool that they have is to go to court, which costs the town money. This would at least allow the town to save money on the court expenses and legal fees, and also, not to say that this is a moneymaker for the town, but if an applicant is cited through the courts, when all is said and done and the fines levied by the court, the state gets it. If the town did this way through the citation, the town gets to keep the money. So that's the one thing. It doesn't change anything. It's all, nothing here is illegal, nothing here is skirting the law. The one thing I will say, though, is that this cannot be used unless the hearing committee and the hearing officer have been stood up, much like we have for the zoning. We have the zoning enforcement officer, for the blight enforcement officer, for the blight ordinance, the same type of thing. The IWWC can only ask that this tool be used. A separate committee would have to be stood up at the hearing commission to hear any appeals by the aggrieved person, so to say, who would be charged with the violation. That's really all I have to say.
Okay. Any public comment at this time?
Good evening, Mike Terry, 5 Brookville Drive, Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. It is true, in fact, we do have a zoning citation ordinance. Also from the fact we've never used it. We've never found a need to use it. We've never even stood up the hearing committee to enable us to use it. So why it's allowed, while it's allowed by general statute, I question the need. But if Wetlands is here to say how much they need in this ordinance, then I guess it's a good thing. But I'll just say that if you look at the zoning ordinance, we haven't used it. I'm at risk of being in agreement with Mr. Treaster twice in one night.
Mr. Treaster.
As the author of ordinance 118, Kevin's also sort of a co-author. He gets as much credit as I do. Anyhow, Eric Treaster, 10 Huntington Way. There should be an extra copy for the secretary. Yeah. I'm not going to speak in favor or in opposition to the need for the wetlands citation, if I'm not knowledgeable enough to address that. But I'm going to address some issues that I think each member of the council should have the answer to before they vote in favor of it. I'm aware that respectfully disagree with some of his analysis. In section 3 of the proposed ordinance, and if you could pull it up, that would be helpful. It uses the term application of timelines of the fine. Application of timelines of the fine. I have no idea what that means. It also states that the IWWC determines the application of timelines. For Ordinance 118, the Zoning Commission, except for authorizing the citation in the first place, has no role. And I do not understand how the Wetlands Commission can have any involvement whatsoever once the citation has been issued. It also, and the second sentence in the handout that I gave you says, this sentence appears to directly conflict with Ordinance 118 that is referenced in section 4, which specifies very specific timelines. Ordinance 118 is very, very precise. The second paragraph on the handout is what the, well, let's see here. The main paragraph in section 3, the last sentence, it says the amount and applications of timelines of the fine shall be determined by the IWWC Commission. The first sentence of that main paragraph says, any person who violates any of the provisions of the Ledyard Inland Wetlands and Water Course regulations after proper notice of violation and intent to cite has been provided, and who fails to comply by remedying the violation described herein may be fined not more than $1,000 per day for each day in which the same violation occurs, or continues beginning on the first day after the amount of time provided to remedy the violation has lapsed. The problem is that it says may be fined not more than $1,000 per day. That implies that there's a range of fines. And there are two problems with that. One is that there are no criteria or examples in the ordinance establishing that range. What type of violation is a $10 fine? For example, failing to sign your name on an application form, that might be a $10 fine. Building interstate over the wetlands might be $1,000 a day. There's no criteria in the ordinance. And then I forgot to put it on the handout. I discovered it afterwards. But if you go to the enabling statute, 22A-42G for the wetlands, it's clear that the fine has to be singular. You can only have one fine. And the way this proposed ordinance is worded, it certainly implies that there is a range of fines. And that's because it says may be fined not more than $1,000 per day. That implies, in my mind, that the actual fine may be less than $1,000 per day. Then I have some questions that I think should be answered, or at least understood by the council before it votes to approve. One question is, if the fine is indeed paid, does it entitle the property owner to continue the violation? Obviously, the answer is no, but it's not clear in the ordinance. Another question is, if the fine is not paid, can the daily fine be increased? Again, because I wrote Ordinance 118, I know the answer is no, but it's not clear in the proposed ordinance. What are the notice requirements? And it references Ordinance 118. Ordinance 118 is related to zoning. And some of those time periods may not be applicable for a major incursion into wetlands. Zoning violations can be simple, like a sign is in the wrong place, $150 per day fine, you yank out the sign, the problem goes away. That's not always applicable for wetlands violations. Who appoints the hearing officer? I don't think it's in the ordinance. I think it says chief executive officer, but it should say the mayor. Who appoints the hearing officer? How many hearing officers? Our light citation ordinance has, I believe, 3. Zoning citation ordinance has 1. How many does the wetlands citation hearing officer? How many wetlands citation hearing officers are there? One of the major questions on both the citation ordinance and the proposed wetlands ordinance is, does the hearing officer have the authority to reduce or discharge the fine? The enabling statutes, in my opinion, are perfectly clear. He does not. Now, obviously, in the real world, if he discharges them, nobody's going to challenge him. But technically speaking, a hearing officer does not have the authority to reduce or discharge the fine. And if he does, it should be in the ordinance. Now, here comes a tough one. What happens if the violator requests the hearing but does not appear? Think about it. What does that mean procedurally? How many? You don't have to indicate it, but in your own mind, decide what in the world happens in this sequence of events, because it will happen. More importantly, what happens if the fine is not paid? I can tell you the answer. Ultimately, the town will end up owning the property. Is that what the town wants? Same thing is true with a light citation. Same thing is true with a zoning citation. Same thing will be true with a wetland citation. If the fine is not paid, for practical purposes, it goes to a collection agency. A lien is placed on the home and on the property, and ultimately, the town will likely end up owning that property.
Can you wrap up, Mr. Priester?
What happens if the violator simply cannot pay the fine, okay, and he cannot pay for the remediation? What is the sequence of events that happens? And in my mind, one of the most important criteria, one of the most important requirements is, how will the town assure that wetlands citations are issued in a uniform and fair manner? Very, very difficult to do in the universe of citations. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Good evening, Nathan Weiss, 23 Deep Peterson Drive. Heard about this from someone a couple weeks ago and gave it some thought about my years here developing. And I guess I think back specifically, and I don't know the wetlands officer, I don't know who's on the wetlands commission anymore, but look back to the days that we had a fairly active zoning enforcement officer who liked to run around and pull signs out and cite people for things, and who moved to another town after that for a long time. But there was always a push in that realm for more hours. I think it was a part-time position, it was a full-time position. And so that would be my first question. I assume that the job of wetlands officer is currently sized to the workload. If you now add this kind of level of enforcement, you better be prepared to, I think you have to step up and write a check, because that guy's going to need more hours, because he can't just go cite. And as a developer, obviously, I feel that we've always had a different standard. Developers are under higher scrutiny, higher level of expectation than Mr. and Mrs. Joe homeowner. But once you start down this road, you're going to get pushback. If you start pushing on the developer, you haven't enforced the private homeowner on an equal basis. And that's going to open us up to litigation. And additionally, at $1,000 a day, if you don't think that becomes a litigation breeder, you start hitting someone with a $30,000 fine for a month and don't think that they're going to hire a lawyer and bring an action against the town if they disagree with the decision. This is going to be a bigger litigation breeder than our normal deliberation. I don't think that we've had any real outstanding issues. I haven't heard anyone say anything about major issues that would justify the need for this kind of thing. Which brings me to the concept, which is that it is anti-development, not just residential but commercial. And it's really kind of an unfriendly way for a quaint village town as we would like to think of ourselves. I had one bad experience with the IWWC, and it was in the process of taking the apartments on Ash Drive and converting them to condominiums. Part of that project was to move a well system and create a brand new well system at a cost of about $300,000 for that community. And we were in the process of doing that. We got permission from the Department of Public Health. We moved ahead. We put in a wetlands crossing. And at that time, we had a guy named Scott Duffus here. Some of you know that name. And he decided to take us on. He had a prior relationship with me that wasn't positive. It was on Autumn Way. He was a builder there, and he started to destroy the street. And we had a bone to pick, and so when he got into power, he took his opportunity to take us twice a week. And went after me very assiduously and got the commission on his side, and we ended up having to rip out this wetlands crossing and put it back in, just for the point of doing it, to say, hey, you didn't get permission.
Can we speak to the ordinance?
I'm speaking to the ordinance, trust me, because the purpose is to show that there can be abuse. In this case, both the officer and the commission exceeded their power. As it turns out, the land were water company lands and outside the purview of the IWWC. They had no business, they had no jurisdiction over water company lands and a community water company. And we ended up having to rip it out and put it back in. Didn't find out until afterwards that they had overstepped their bounds. So my point is, so who are the people enforcing the law? I don't know your IWWC guy. I don't know his qualifications. I don't know what college he went to. I don't know what he studied. I don't know if he has a master's degree. If he has all the pertinent knowledge to be the guy leading the charge. I don't know who's on the commission. And to know whether those people are qualified. But I'm going to tell you, I think that if we pass this, we've created a bigger litigation breeder. It will be a loss for the town. So it costs the town money. We better be prepared to write checks for it. I think that's a mistake. I just don't think there's been I've never heard no one say, this is the problem and this is why we're doing it.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Somebody from Inland Wetlands? Is there somebody here from Inland Wetlands?
No.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Conservation.
I just take a couple of minutes to explain what the Conservation Commission and personally with of Platform when the proposed Tri-Town Trail. The Conservation Commission is fully behind the Tri-Town Trail.
No, this is the public hearing for the
an
ordinance, not the meeting yet.
I'm sorry.
And that's okay. In about 5 minutes, we'll be calling you back up. Okay. You'll have your time. Are there any other public comments? Yes.
To Mr. Cherry's comment that we haven't stood up the zoning citation hearing board, I think we should, and I'm curious about why it's taken so long to do that. And I'm disappointed that we haven't done that. And I think the fact that we haven't done that is not a reason not to do this.
Or the correction, we did stand it.
I thought we did too.
There was an individual named as the hearing officer for the zoning citation.
Yep.
He has subsequently had resigned that position.
Okay.
It never got.
Okay.
It has never been given to somebody else.
So my main point is that the fact that we haven't got this whole process in place for zoning is not a reason to not do it for wetlands. I think both ordinances, both groups need teeth when they try to enforce the regulations.
Are there any other public comments? I have two. Yes.
Yes, just two points made on this. I agree with what Councilor Sounds just said. You do sometimes need an enforcement tool. I will say that there have in fact been fines levied for wetlands. There was a significant fine of about $50,000 that was imposed at one point on someone in the town. It was done through the courts. I guarantee you the town spent money to do that. Now, could it have been done with fines? Possibly it may have. There was another case where someone did something egregious, and the wetlands was able to work with them to get it remediated. And then as to the last point made by Mr. Treaster, the issue of uniformity and fairness could enter into any regulation we write. It could enter into the zoning regulations, wetland regulations. There are constantly being accusations of unfairness and non-conformity or non-uniformity in the way these things are imposed. So whether it's money or whether it's regulations, they're always subject to interpretation. We do have volunteers and we do have very good people on commissions, but they make judgments and they disagree on those judgments. But again, I don't think that in itself, you don't make the particular regulation with the thought of who your particular enforcement officer is or who your regulatory board is. You make it in terms of what is the right thing for the town.
Any other public comment? I have 2 items of correspondence. I believe they are in correspondence. One from Mr. John Atkinson, and he is opposed to the proposed ordinance. For many of the same reasons, I think is sufficient. And also I did receive a phone call from Mr. Peter Gardner, also opposed to the ordinance. Are there any other public comments? Hearing none, this public hearing is adjourned. And